Hey guys, welcome back to Unveiling Stories. Before we start, make sure to subscribe. Let's get to 100 subscribers. So without further ado, let's get into today's Thailand story. Hey, my name is Jim and I'm a 38-year-old Swedish guy. This is my story from my holiday in Thailand. My story begins in 2018 when, after getting fed up with work and life in Sweden in general, I quit my job and had the opportunity to not work for a few years. I started traveling around Europe, going on short trips here and there. It was fun, but Europe is expensive, so I thought, why not go to Thailand instead and stay there for the winter? So I did. I was 35 at the time, and it might be relevant to the story that I wasn't an old man. I was in good shape, and I literally had a six-pack as I loved going to the gym. This wasn't my first time in Thailand. I had been there once before, but it was 10 years earlier and with my girlfriend. We only spent 2 weeks on Phuket, so I hadn't really seen anything. I arrived in Bangkok in September of 2018. I was filled with excitement, but really didn't know what to expect. Like many others, I had read up a bit on the internet, but I had no idea what was ahead of me. The first 4 nights I had booked a hotel on Khaosan Road. I had read a lot about Khaosan Road and wanted to experience the area. It was pretty awesome. I was partying every night and meeting with girls at bars and clubs, not only on Khaosan Road, but around Sukhumvit Soi 11 as well. After 4 nights in Thailand, I had been on dates with as many girls as I would have done in a normal year in Sweden. None had asked me for money, so I assumed they were all regular Thai girls just out for some fun. I then headed off to Pattaya. I had booked a month there in an Airbnb. I guess I don't have to go into too many details, but I had an amazing time in Pattaya. I met up with more girls than I could dream of. Still, none had asked me for any money, and I was getting so much attention everywhere. It felt genuine, and I was on top of the world. I don't like to brag, but I was quite young for Pattaya from what I could see, and being in great shape. Maybe many of the girls just wanted a change from the regular guys that they see. I am certain that most of the girls I met with were working girls. After a month in Pattaya, I headed off to Patong. My plan was to stay there for a few months, but it quickly got boring. It was difficult to meet people to hang out with. Their friends, I mean. Everyone worked in some bar or club. I stayed a month and then headed back to Bangkok. A friend I met on my first weekend on Khaosan Road lived in Bangkok. It's here that my story really begins. I met a girl called Kanda. I had only stayed in Bangkok for about 2 weeks when me and some friends went to a club. I have hazy memories of that night, as I was quite drunk. I had a new date lined up with this girl Kanda that I had met in the club. We started texting each other and eventually met up for some drinks the next day. Kanda was studying at university. According to her, her family owned a farm and other businesses in the south, and they were apparently quite well off. I never questioned what she told me and accepted it all as legit. Kanda was really hot, and she was in even better shape than me, hitting the gym 5 times a week. As many probably know, things can move extremely quickly with Thai girls, and so this did. Before I knew it, we were meeting more or less every day and staying at my condo and going on short trips together. Basically, we did everything together. We had planned to go to the Philippines, and we were also planning on a trip to Sweden for a visit. I was really happy. I thought that this was it. Damn, how could I have been so lucky to meet this stunner, I thought to myself. Things continued, and then one day, Candace said she was going on a trip to Japan in the beginning of January. She said she had friends there that she had met once when they were traveling to Thailand, and she went to Japan 2 times a year to meet them. It sounded cool to me. I didn't think anything more of it. The day arrives for Candace's trip to Japan. I follow her to the airport and I kiss her goodbye. Everything seemed great. I knew what time she would arrive, and I was waiting for her to text me. I had to wait a long time, several hours after she had landed. Her texts were so short, they were just like yes, no, okay, haha, etc. And it was always hours between them. This was strange, as she had never acted like this before. After a few days of this, I was getting very suspicious, but I couldn't do much about it. Then she posted a photo on Instagram and geotagged it, so I clicked the location, and I found a guy that had posted the exact same photo at the exact same time. I could see that she followed him on Instagram, but there were no photos of them together. He had his name on his profile, so I went on Facebook and I found him. And what do I see? A post saying he is now engaged with Kanda from Thailand, and there he is with her in numerous photos. Looking through his profile, I could see they had been engaged for 2 years. My world had just crumbled. I confronted her right away and asked her why she had lied to me about her trip to Japan. This time she replied instantly. She said she hadn't lied and didn't know what I was talking about. Then I sent her a screenshot of that guy's profile and she replied, "Sorry," but nothing else. All of a sudden, I was blocked from his Instagram and his Facebook pages. That was it. We never really spoke again. I was so hurt and didn't want to hear any more lies from her. Looking back, there were a lot of warning signs, but I couldn't see them back then. It was just 2 weeks until my lease for the condo in Bangkok was up, so I decided to leave for Pattaya again. I decided to just keep doing what I had done before, meet with girls for fun and nothing else. Pattaya was just as much fun as it had been, but I was still feeling hurt from what Kanda had done, although it didn't stop me from having a great time. This was sometime into the middle of January, and I kept to my routine with visits to the gym, the pool and the beach while still partying in the evenings. Then in April I met Wana. According to Wana, she was a retired bar girl. She had worked in a famous go-go bar for 5 years from the age of 18, and she had saved a lot of money and spent it on a farm for her family in Isan. Wana told me that they all make a good living from the farm, and that she was only in Pattaya visiting friends. As said, I was naive back then, and I believed her. I had promised myself not to get seriously involved with a Thai girl ever again because of Kanda, but it was impossible when Wana ticked all the boxes, really. I had never in my life had so much fun with a girl doing regular everyday things. I was on cloud 9. I like to do everything. I like to play video games, watch movies, stand by the beach and the pool, go for walks, etc., etc. It was perfect. Wana was actually really smart too. This will sound smug, but I had never been with a girl that I recognized to be smarter than me. But Wana was. I had told Wana about my experience with Kanda and how she had deceived me, and that she was engaged to be married with another guy living in Japan. Wana appeared shocked and agreed that it was a horrible thing to do and couldn't understand how she could have done that to me. Wana stayed with me, but sometimes she went back to her village in Isan for a short visit. When Wana was in Isan, she texted me regularly. We also talked on the phone, and I mean literally all the time. My next visa run was coming up, so I was planning a trip to Bali. Wana had never been there, but she wanted to go, so we planned it together as a longer holiday. I booked the tickets, made an itinerary, and booked hotels. Life was great. Me and Wana talked about getting a bigger condo together, as mine was a bit small. We viewed some online and were planning to go on some viewings. Wana then invited me to visit her village in Isan to meet her family. I, of course, accepted, and I was very happy, as I saw this as another sign that this was a real deal. It was now August, and I was going up to the north of Thailand. We had planned a week there, splitting the time between one of the major cities in Isan called Khon Kaen and her hometown. I had a good time. It was interesting to see the life there and to meet her family. Wana's family spoke zero English, but we were friendly. They have a modern house that had not long been built, and during the days, they were all working on the farm. The week soon came to an end, and we were going back to Pattaya. The next day, we had a scheduled viewing of a condo. Wana then said she couldn't go with me. She needed to stay and help her family for a few days. I thought nothing of this and said I would video call her when I was at the viewing of the apartment so that she could also see it. I flew back to Pattaya alone. We talked on a video call for most of the night until 4 a.m. in the morning when I posted something very cryptic on her Facebook page, something in that with a lot of black hearts. I tried to translate it. It was something like, "Why can't the heart ever get what it wants?" I know Thai to English translations are often wrong, so I didn't know what to make of it. When I asked Wana about it, she said it was nothing and deleted it. She then called me again and she was crying and couldn't stop. I couldn't get an answer from her. What was going on? And eventually, she just said she needed to sleep. I was worried, but we hung up, and I went to sleep as well. The next day, I couldn't reach her. She didn't reply to my texts, and her phone was off. This was worrying me a bit, but I had the meeting with the real estate agent to view the condo. I texted and called Wana again, but it was the same as before. No reply, nothing. Phone was off, no replies, no messages delivered. Then a few hours later, the text got delivered. When I replied in a weird way like short messages, she said she wasn't feeling well and had been sleeping for most of the day. I thought, okay, maybe she is sick. However, I didn't really know what to think, and I was getting nervous. The day continued, but Joanna wasn't really replying to any of my text messages that I sent her. She also did not pick up any of my calls. Then finally, late at night, she called me. She said that she had a bad signal and something was wrong with the internet in her village because of the bad weather. She didn't want to talk too much because she was still feeling sick, she said. Wana sent me some super blurry photos of something she claimed was her farm. It was the same thing on the following day and the next day. Now I was starting to see a pattern, and I was starting to think that she was lying to me. I kept pressuring her, asking all sorts of questions about why she was acting like this, why she couldn't talk longer on her video. And then, all of a sudden, she gave in. She told me everything. She was in Singapore with her sponsor, with one of her sponsors actually. She had two. Once she opened up, it all came out, absolutely everything. How much money they sent her, how long she had been with them, how often they met. She also told me that her family didn't really make enough money from the farm, but they were living off the sponsor's money. I was again shocked, even though I had started to fear and suspect that something was seriously wrong. This was very worse. I couldn't believe that it was happening again, exactly the same thing. Overseas boyfriend, sponsor, whatever. After what I had told Wana about Kanda, she then did the exact same thing. I just couldn't believe it. How could she? She was crying. She said that she loved me so much, and that she had never felt anything like this before. I was both devastated and very angry. How could she do all of this? How could she agree to book a trip to Bali, invite me to her family, plan to move in together for real, when she knew nothing of this was ever going to happen? How could she play with me like this? She said she was so sorry. She knew that everything she had done was wrong and that it was selfish on her part. But she went on to explain that she couldn't help herself because she loved every moment with me and wanted to enjoy it for as long as it could possibly last. I still couldn't understand it. She had never asked for any money. She said she had her own and she could pay for drinks or dinners and things like that. I wasn't thinking that if she just had been honest, I'm sure we could have worked something out. But she never did. I was crushed. I was really hurting. This will sound weird, but I have gone through a divorce, and that didn't hurt as much as this did. I really couldn't. I can't describe it in any better way than to say that my heart was physically hurting. I had chest pains when she kept sending me messages about being sorry, this and that and whatnot. I could not accept it. I told her on numerous occasions to stop sending me messages because it was over. I said even worse things to her that I'm not proud of, but still, she kept texting me the same things. I went to Bali by myself. When I kept texting me, eventually, it started to get easier. As I was in Bali, I met up with other girls and I started to live again. Me and Wana hooked up a few times after that, just some one-night stuff. Every time she saw me without a girl in Pattaya, she would come up to me and asked if she could go with me. I'm not sure why, but I always said yes to this. To this day, I still think of her on a regular basis, but we don't have any contact at this point. I left Thailand when this pandemic got really bad, and I haven't heard from her since. I guess that's all for the better.